SBC Media.
Brazil, a global economic powerhouse, deeply passionate about sports, and now home to one of the hottest markets in gaming. And we're giving it the full SBC treatment. Join industry leaders, market experts, and all the major players in the country for 3 days of content, exhibition, and epic networking at the first ever SBC Summit Rio.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
After the bill that regulates Brazilian sports betting was approved by the Chamber of Deputies and is about to be voted on by the Commission of Sports in the Senate, the federal government of Brazil published the first Portaria, establishing the general rules for the industry. This will be the topic of today's iGaming Daily, sponsored by SBC Summit Rio. Joining me, Isadora Marcante, on this talking point is the lawyer Tiago Gomes, specialized in commercial law. We are at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel in Miami. It's a lovely day to discuss the future of a regulated market in Brazil. Tiago, how are you doing today?
Hi, Isadora. Thank you for hosting me. I'm doing great today. As you said, it's a great day for us to discuss this topic and how the future will affect us in this industry in Brazil.
So this is the second SBC event that you come to. How are you finding SBC Summit Latin America so far?
It's been great. As you mentioned, it's the second time I've been to an SBC event. First time was in Barcelona this year. Huge event. SBC Latin America is much more focused. And so I think it's all the relevant players are here. And we have had very important and very focused discussions here. And it's been fantastic to be here.
Great. That's really nice. So, well, let's talk about regulation. Romario published his report on the sports betting bill approved by the Chamber of Deputies in September. He rejected, though, the proposal to regulate online games. However, the text still needs to be voted on by the senators. If online games are not legalized and regulated in Brazil, what impact could this have on the industry?
My opinion is that the impact will be enormous. As of today, the calculus is that around 60% of the total revenue of the industry comes from online gaming, and this cannot be disregarded once we take into the consideration the possibility of regulating it. Not only because of the economic importance, but the fact that there will continue to be online gaming abroad will be very detrimental to the economic exploitation of the industry in Brazil if we cannot explore that line of business. At the end of the day, people will continue to operate abroad, offshore, and Brazilian people interested in online gaming, as the text of the law was approved in the chamber, will continue to seek for that kind of business, that kind of services. So I am afraid that while we have people rendering services for sports betting in Brazil, they will be harmed by those who are operating abroad and servicing Brazilian people with online gaming. They will be capable of doing both services, and I think that will very likely attract Brazilian customers who were supposed to be customers of the legalized business to those gray area, which is not good for the country.
Well, the Minister of Finance published the first Portaria, establishing rules for the companies that intend to enter the Brazilian market regarding responsible gambling, AML policies, and advertisements. Will we see specific Portarias on these topics?
Well, the impression I had from the conversations I had with Francisco Manssur is that we are to have around 10 new Portarias. If online gaming remains in the text, probably something around 12 in this beginning. So that said, it makes sense for each of the Portarias to treat on specific subjects like capital. So the structure, the corporate structure of the companies and advertisement, responsible gambling. So they will be covering all the aspects of the industry, each one covering a specific issue that makes sense, and counting on those 9 to 10 portarias. If I'm not mistaken, they are covering all the areas that are specific for the industry.
So talking about advertising, the deputy Ricardo Aires presented a bill to prohibit celebrities and digital influencers from promoting gambling. If this happens, what are the consequences for the industry?
I tend to say that they are new because it's really difficult. First of all, what's the meaning of celebrity, or the legal definition of an influencer? Are you an influencer? You know, I know you have a lot of followers in Instagram. So aren't you able to talk about gambling? I don't think this makes sense. What I do believe is that Brazil has a long tradition of self-regulation for advertisement. We are good at that. CONAR does an amazing job regulating the market because it counts on with all the market to self-regulate itself. Gaming industry will need to cover that. I know that as of today, it's very difficult not to find advertisement of the gaming industry, and we might be at that point in history where people tend to say, well, now it's too much, so we have to control, and we will go to the opposite side. I think this is a mistake. We should leave it to the market to regulate itself. If the market fails to regulate itself, now that we are proposing a regulation, if the market fails to regulate itself, then we have to find boundaries. But I don't believe in those specific boundaries. I think that England, for instance, is dealing with that with other measures. Like if you are an influencer with a basis that is focused on infants, for instance, you are not allowed to make advertisement of betting. That might be something that sometime down the road in Brazil we may look at that. But first of all, let's give the market a chance to do it. We are talking about an industry that's totally unregulated, and so we may have seen some excess. Let's try and focus on the fact that we are now setting the regulation, and with the regulation, the players will have to reorganize themselves in the market, and so the advertisement will follow the rules. Only those companies allowed to operate in Brazil will be allowed to make advertisement. They will have already enough, in my opinion, enough limits or enough interest not to exceed themselves and do something that is improper for the market. I think that we will deal with that in a much better way if we leave the market to regulate itself. Because as I said, Brazil has a long-standing tradition of self-regulation in advertisement. We shouldn't do something different in something that we are doing very good.
Yeah, we know that regulating the market is not only about collecting taxes and setting rules for its environment. What are the economic benefits of a regulated market for the Brazilian society, apart from taxes, apart from rules?
Well, I'm not an economist, so I talk about my personal experience. But in my view, the most important issue that we should be talking about here is how many people will now have a proper job just because a new industry probably the only industry that's not legally operating in Brazil, this new industry will come. So just with this new Portaria saying that the call centers need to be in Brazil, for all counts, I think that 10,000 new people will be employed in Brazil. It's huge. We're talking about 40,000 people by the accounts that every employee carries 3 new indirect employments. 40,000 people affected by one single Portaria. We are changing the life of people, probably that they will now have a proper job. They will be able to pay for their accounts. This cannot be disregarded. So, in my opinion, the most important issue here is we are creating new jobs. Brazil is an economy that's suffering from the effects of the pandemics, from the effects of the war in Ukraine. When we talk about creating new jobs, a country that can be a hub for investment in Latin America for this industry, Brazil is the largest country in Latin America. We can be a hub for our neighbors. We can be the lab for the implementation of this industry in the rest of Latin America, in the countries that are not regulated yet. So, in my opinion, what we should be really talking about is how huge the impact will be over the economy for the creation of those jobs. And I'm only talking about the call center. We are talking about companies that make a lot of money, that will have to employ people, qualified people. We will have a very important impact in the Brazilian economy by the fact that we are admitting probably the last industry that's not regulated in the country. That's huge.
Thank you very much, Tiago, for being here with us today, and thank you for listening.